Gavin St Pier, Political Advisor to Future Guernsey.
Lindsay Freeman, Chief Executive, Future Guernsey.
John Hardy, Chairman, Future Guernsey.
In a nutshell, really then, what is Future Guernsey? Well, Future Guernsey is a policy-led political movement that has been created directly in response to a need that islanders have expressed for policy over personality. 75% of the people that we questioned said that that is what they wanted to see in their government.
So you found out what people want through questioning them, but who did you question and how?
So we did a very robust programme of research. So we started off back in May with some focus groups, and they went from the over 65s down to 16-year-olds. That's quite unusual. We use a special method called friendship triads to speak to 16 to 19-year-olds. And based on that feedback, we applied the same question to some telephone interviews. And we specifically wanted to do telephone interviews because we didn't want people to be sort of distracted, sort of eating a sandwich and sort of flicking through answers.
Yeah.
And that would also find people, the people who don't necessarily take part in research panels as well. So you're actually phoning people up and speaking directly to them. And so we had the mixture of the qualitative and the quantitative research. And then alongside that, we've been speaking to so many people in the community. So we've been reaching out to business people. The launch tonight, you'll see that we've got actually some video content of the business people that we've spoken to. And we've also been consulting with the people who have now become part of our policy groups, who are experts in their fields, and that's across the policies from health to tax.
Okay, so, and these people are saying they want a change in policy. Yeah.
They certainly do. Yeah. I mean, trust is specifically is absolutely undermined in Guernsey. So I think the exact figure is just 1 in 10 islanders believe Guernsey's current political system is working. So that's 13% in fact, and less than a third of islanders actually say they trust states members to make good decisions. I think that is really disconcerting, but sadly it was unsurprising.
Well, Gavin, you're in the current political system in Guernsey. Does that surprise you?
It doesn't surprise me, but it's clearly very disappointing. But it's also something that we shouldn't just accept. We have to try and change that. The reality is politics affects everybody, whether they like it or not, and whether they know it or not. Literally every decision, every part of life is as a result of a political decision. It could be a planning application or the access to healthcare or the education system. All of these things are a result of political decisions. And also the result of political indecision, the failure to make decisions. And I think that's what's become so particularly apparent to the community in the last 4 years, is how ineffective government is. And by the fact that so little has been achieved, and the cost of that, the opportunity cost for that for us as a community and for our economy, and therefore for the prosperity of all islanders, is seriously being impacted. And we literally cannot afford as an island to carry on as we are. We have to find a way to do things differently, and that's what the community is saying. That's why 75% in the research said they want policy over personalities. They want to be able to make those policy choices when they go into the election booth.
So how do you think Future Guernsey can help affect those changes that, you've got the data that says people want?
I think it's about bringing the widest possible group of people together, articulating a clear direction of travel, and then presenting a coherent and holistic policy suite to address the most important priorities that the community have themselves identified. And again, there's not necessarily a great surprise as to what those are. So affordable housing, health and care, education, sorting out the tax system, our economy, and climate transition. I mean, that in itself is enough to be getting on with over the next 4 years. But we need to have a plan for government that is very focused on delivery of that, but also that the electorate, when they make their choices, actually understand what they're being offered by the candidates that are standing.
Okay, I mean, as Future Guernsey, you don't have these policies drafted, ready to go, so you don't have the answers. As you said before, this is the start of a journey.
It is. I mean, in a sense, the easy bit is identifying the priorities. but importantly, by doing that by listening to the public as opposed to just creating your own list. The next stage has started, as Lindsay has said, in terms of working with policy working groups of experts in their own field who are starting to pull together what policy might look like. But importantly, they've also got visibility of what the other groups are doing, so that they're not thinking in a silo. They're able to think about how it all might hang together rather than as a series of separate policy ideas.
Okay. And then John, so we're hearing it's policies, not personalities, and there's already this data then actually to drive those policy decisions as and when you come to making it. And as chairman, how do you see it all panning out?
Well, I think that it begins with the people of Guernsey. And the reason why we started with researchers, we recognise that we are all in danger of just listening to our own echo chambers and espousing simplistic theories that all we need to do is cut the bureaucracy, as long as you don't cut my services, build more housing, but not in my neighbourhood, and things are simple. Well, things are complicated. And yet Guernsey has an incredible array of talented and expert people. So why is it that the majority of people of Guernsey are dissatisfied with government functioning, with a lack of progress, concerned about the future, concerned that their children will leave the island never to come back? So isn't it an opportunity to bring together the array of talent on the island and actually to work through thoughtfully some clever policies for each of these areas and take those to the people of Guernsey? And as we do so, attract a new generation of high caliber deputies who will work in unison together. And I think that the only way to do that is to create a political organisation, a professional and enduring political organisation that will turn theory into action, all the way, not through just an election to get into assembly, to work all the way through that and create delivery and success. So from my point of view, you have to be organised to do that. And I think actually what we're finding is, despite people saying the contrary, I think most people in Guernsey are ready for effective political parties.
Okay. But this isn't a party, is that right to say?
It's a political organisation, but we anticipate that eventually in the future that there will be a group will come together. But by the way, we'll also say, look, we will create a manifesto of that policy. There may still be some people who believe in being independent. But we will work with them and we will reach out for all of those. So it'll be the combination of, I imagine, some kind of political group plus individuals who buy into the policy platform and are determined to deliver it.
Okay, and if I just take back a step to what you just mentioned before about people leaving, or people concerned that their children are going to leave the island. And this is a notion that gets repeated quite often, but we've seen actual examples of it happening. We've spoken to people who have left the island or who are planning to leave the island, and quite often you see the social media commentary is around people who consider themselves to be locals and people who they don't consider to be local, and they feel like they're being pushed out. Do you think this will help the messaging that politics is for everyone? These policies will help those people who maybe feel disenfranchised at the moment and feel like they are being forced out of their home.
Exactly. This is intended to reach the people that politics doesn't normally reach. This is an organisation. We're going to welcome people to join us. So we have launched at a point where we have begun the work, the research, begun to formulate policy, but we're early enough to say, come on board, be a part of it. Either help us create these policies, bring your expertise, whether that's in building or in teaching or as a financial wizard or in the travel sector, whatever it is, come on board and join us. And hopefully some of you come on board and be willing to become deputies. So rather than start with, here's a group of ready-made politicians who will start, we're saying, no, actually, we are not going to be led by the personalities and the candidates. We'll be led by the values and the policies that we create and be as inclusive as possible to all parts of Guernsey.
And in terms of then reaching all parts of Guernsey, if we go back to the data collection, so you spoke to young people 16 and up, and obviously 16 and 17-year-olds can vote in Guernsey, Alderney and Sark, and I think Jersey as well now. But they still potentially don't feel very engaged with politics. Will this help?
Exactly that. So 44% of islanders between the ages of 16 to 29 said that they had a good understanding of how Guernsey's political system works. So that's less than 50%. And that's 16 to 29. So we're looking at under 30s. And what we found in our focus groups was that there were people in my own age group between 30 and 44 who still didn't know that we had island-wide voting. So I listened to all of the focus groups, and there was only one person in that focus group who knew that we had island-wide voting. Others either thought we still had the parish system, or they didn't know what our system was, because there was actually a lot of newcomers in that focus group. And that's another thing we've got to take on board. We've got young people and we've got people who are new to the island, and neither of them seem to understand. There's this huge lack of understanding. I mean, it's 57% in the 30 to 44 year old. So there's still this sort of over 40% saying that they don't actually understand the fundamentals of how our political system works. And don't forget, a lot of people overclaim in research. If you are asking people, do you understand it? They're probably likely to say, oh, yes. So for them to actually say, put their hands up and say, I don't understand this. And I think for younger people, we have to be aware that, you know, for me and my age group, we've lived through the digital revolution. These people have, that's all they've ever known. So the fact that how they want to be communicated with, via social media, via infographics, via data visualizations, via snippets, via sort of briefings about news. That's what they want to see. And we need to catch people like that. And I appreciate that people say that this is not how we do things in Guernsey, but it's how we're going to have to adapt to get those younger generations on board, to understand that politics affects every single part of their life. And you're right, we do have this brain drain, and that's something that was identified in the research as people talking about being very concerned about, you know, parents, grandparents, thinking that they're you know, they're not going to know their own children or grandchildren because they're going to be in England. And then those generations actually seeking to move away as well because they want to be near their own families. So it's something that absolutely it's a job that absolutely has to be done. There's an education a job here that we feel is actually a really big part of our role.
And at the other end of the scale, actually, older voters, I'd be interested in hearing the data there, because I remember my gran saying, must have been the 2016 election, I think it was, she wasn't going to vote because, well, you know, it's not going to make any difference to me now. She must have been 90 then. It's not going to make any difference to my life, so I'm not going to bother. But it does make a difference, doesn't it? As you said, politics is for everyone.
It is. And I think what we saw is the lack of understanding, it absolutely, you know, it fell away as people became older. And because the older generations were talking about, oh, I like the fact that I can pick up the phone to my deputy. I like the fact that I can see them in the supermarket. That's great. And that is something that is really, really important about Guernsey. But let's be honest, when was the last time an 18-year-old picked up the telephone to anybody? You know, so again, it's this idea that we have to adapt to changing macro trends and factors. That you're not going to necessarily find an 18-year-old. They also, the younger people also said that was great. Yes. Oh, so-and-so lives on my clo and I see so-and-so riding their bike. And, you know, so there were these things mentioned that it was, you know, great that there was this familiarity and this touch of the fact that you could sort of see and touch your deputies, but they weren't actually actively feeling like they had the ownership or the permission to reach out, whereas older people did. A lot of older people said, oh, I email my deputy and I speak to them. So, it's about us adapting to this changing demographic of more young people and more newcomers and helping them to take them along this journey as well and communicating with them in the right way.
Okay, and back to then what it's all about, the elections in June 2025. Is it too late to start making these changes now?
We have to start now. We've got the enough time to bring all of this together. There's still a lot of work. A lot of work has been done, but there's an awful lot of work that needs to be done. But you know, the politics is really too important to leave it to the politicians, and that's why we need a wider group of people who recognise the challenge and actually want to be part of the solution.
And actually, again, you have stated that you're planning to stand again for re-election in June. This isn't just a platform for you, though, is it? And as we've said, this isn't actually about candidates at the moment. It's the start of what could lead to a number of candidates fielding.
No, far from it. As John has said, this is about building something that is enduring. This is going to go way beyond and it's important that it does go way beyond my political life. I've clearly had a high-profile role for 12 years, including in two key senior decision-making roles. But all of that has helped inform me and help bring the experience to play to understand what some of the challenges are and some of the issues that need to be addressed within our system. And that is helping to inform and shape Future Guernsey, but it's far bigger than me.
And John, actually, just to come back to you again, so this is not a political party at the moment, it's an organisation, but you think Guernsey is ready for party politics?
Well, I think the people of Guernsey are telling us through the research. And it's important to say that because people have written off the concept because of the experience last time. I think what we've learned is Guernsey it's unlikely to be successful if we have just another quickly assembled group of people coming forward weeks before the election period starts. And we've seen that as a kind of like here today, gone tomorrow. So we have to very deliberately build something which the people of Guernsey have reason to believe can be this enduring institution that is worth joining and taking part in.
Okay, so the launch event tonight, what's the next stage? Who wants to...
Well, I think we'll see the reaction, and we'll see how many people come along and take part, and how many people express an interest in being a deputy. The work of the working groups and policy will continue. More people may join that, and that will lead at some point through to the expression of a manifesto. I won't say when that will be, but at some point in the next few months, we will publish in some form or another more detail about policies and targets and so forth, how they all interrelate to each other, and that will be the basis of a manifesto.
Okay. How many people are you expecting tonight?
We've got more than 250 We've got 250 registered, and we've got a waiting list.
Right.
So, we are definitely going to be packed to the rafters.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, it's been fantastic that so many people have put their hands up, and they are from all walks of life.
Yeah.
Yes, some of them are in the policy working groups. Some of them don't really know much at all about what happened, but they let me come and photograph them and film them when they were having a sea swim at dawn one morning. Yeah. So we've got a real mixture of people from all industries, tradespeople, teachers, accountants. We've got the whole idea is that this has been created to give people of Guernsey some ownership, give them some hope, and try and stop this divisive narrative that we seem to have adopted, and actually find where we've got common ground rather than focus on our differences. Yeah. So it really is a very mixed crowd, and we're really proud that hopefully lots of different people from lots of different walks of life will see what we're doing tonight.